Alrighty, thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar, Why Video Matters in Recruiting. It's fitting that we're doing this on a video conference. Today's presenters are Melissa Asher and Michael Alcalay. For your convenience, the slide deck for today's presentation will be available on the CPS HR Consulting website. Please visit cpshr.us to download both the presentation and view the video. The session will also be posted on LinkedIn, so please ensure to follow us there. In order to ensure a high quality recording, all attendees are encouraged to mute your mic. If you have questions for Michael or Melissa, please enter them in the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen, and we'll address questions at the end of the presentation as time allows. Now let's get started. Melissa?
All right. Hey, thank you, Jason. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. Just a quick introduction. I'm Melissa Asher. I'm the director here at CPS HR Consulting for our executive search unit. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic. Executive search and recruiting in general has really evolved over the last several years, and video is now a key component of that. I've been working in HR for 25 years, and it's kind of ironic. I actually began my career before getting into HR, working for television stations and being a camera person myself. So I feel like I've started there and then went more into the hardcore HR, and now, lo and behold, HR is meeting me back with my roots from the television station. And I'm so delighted to be presenting here with my colleague, Michael Alcalay.
Well, thank you, Melissa. I'm really excited to be here. Just to say a few words about myself, my name is Michael Alcalay, President, CEO, and head bottle washer, chief bottle washer, right? Head Alcalay Communications, and then we're a full service marketing and video production firm. We have been in business for about 20 years and added video production to our line of services about 10 years ago. And built up quite an array of great equipment that we go out and use for a variety of video shoots, or filming, as I like to say, for clients. So it's exciting to be here and to share some of our craft with people today and why we do the things we do. I've worked with CPS HR for a very long time, and my partner, co-producer, Melissa, has just been an asset in every video that we've worked on. So look forward to sharing our craft with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, Michael is really a master of the craft here. So I think we're going to get started with a little bit of asking the audience. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, we are. I'm going to put
quick little
introduce.
Poll. Yeah.
I'll put down the poll. I'm going to launch it.
Yeah, it's a quick one. It's a yes or no. Do you use video to recruit employees now? Just curious to see what.
Yeah, and people are taking the poll, so we know it now works.
Yes, the poll's working great. It's awesome to see. Gosh, we've got about, come on, let's see, got a few more people voting here. We're more than halfway. Get a few more folks. Yes or no? It's an easy question, easy answer. Do you use video to recruit employees? We just want to get a sense of what your experience may be.
And then we'll share the numbers with you, right? Or we can keep them a secret to the very end.
Oh, it's kind of fun to keep it a secret. Oh no, we can't keep them in suspense.
or we could cut to a commercial, right? Come back to the results.
Yep, sure. But then I'll have to start humming, and we already talked about how that would be a bad idea.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close it in about 1 second, and there we go. And there's the results.
So about a third of you have used or are using video, and about 2/3 aren't. Okay, great. Well, that's good to know. It is definitely proliferating out there. More folks are, I think, endeavoring to try to incorporate it. And what we want to share with you today are some ideas for just how you can do that and why it's important to do that. So go ahead, Michael.
No, I was going to say, so why don't we cut to the kind of give them a preview of what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so we'll head on over, and we're going to show 2 videos today through our presentation. So you'll want to check your volume on your side. I think we've said it pretty well, but if you can't hear it, turn your volume up. If it's too loud, you can turn your volume down. So here you go. Well.
The Berkeley Public Library is a well-funded, thriving, and creative organization focused on serving a diverse community in a culturally rich environment. It offers a wide range of services that set it apart from other libraries as modern and progressive. With dedicated staff leading the way to a 4-star library designation 3 years in a row, this is a place that is making a difference for the community.
Berkeley Public Library is special because of the diverse community that we serve that is incredibly supportive of libraries. They love their libraries. There are certain families who we'll see almost every day. And the staff here are very dedicated and committed. Some of them are also very professionally involved. So in our children's department.
That was awesome, Michael. Yeah, we thought it was important to just give you a little snippet, like the before, to give you this context for how video might look, what it might look and feel like for your recruitments. Before we kind of dive into the magic then of how we created that, we wanted to share a little bit of the context around this notion of why video and why now for the 2/3 of you who maybe are on the fence or thinking about this. As humans, we are very visually oriented, and we find videos more engaging, more memorable, and honestly more popular than any other type of content that's out there. And you've probably heard or experienced that people aren't reading as much anymore. I know sometimes even I am guilty of like really skimming something, but a video, something that's going to capture your imagination through images is likely to be much more engaging. In the training world, I do some work there. We kind of have this phrase like, if there's not a YouTube video for how to do something, it probably is not a thing. It doesn't even really exist. And the cool thing about video is it is a means of storytelling and building awareness around around your organization, around your opportunities in a way that just is so much more powerful than a written document. I mean, it truly has become, I think, a necessity when agencies are thinking about branding, when they're thinking about how they are being perceived, how they're being seen out in the world. So if you want to increase, exposure, if you're wanting to increase this call to action in terms of your recruiting programs, we're going to really encourage you to explore video with us.
Yeah, and really, this is really a fascinating statistic, one that's grown over time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. 90% of information submitted to the brain is visual. You may not have known that, but we've got a couple of little stats here that are a little bit of science behind this. So that was astounding. Another kind of interesting question we have for you, another little exploration here is you've heard the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, how many words do you think a video is worth? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Just give a guess. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that's, a well-known picture there, Mona Lisa, a lot going on there. How many words do you think a video is worth? Is that 1,000,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000? Oh, I like these guesses. 1,000,000, 1,000,000.
I think
this group is pretty sharp. They're
pretty sharp.
They're
group.
on the right track.
Never ending. I like that
love
one.
It, Rosemary.
Yeah, Rosemary.
All right. Well, should we do the big reveal?
Oh, the big reveal. Wait, none.
1.8 million. 1.8 million words are conveyed in a video. So that's pretty compelling. You can tell a lot with a video.
Yeah, but this next slide is really interesting. That we were able to come up with the processing speed.
Yeah, because in addition to it conveying a lot of information, you actually receive that information much faster. Visual information gets to the brain 60,000 times faster than text. Kind of back to what we said, our brains are wired for visuals. So you're getting more and you're getting it faster.
Yeah, but then when you look at retention.
Yeah, I guess we do want to retain it, right? Because what good is it if we're seeing it and we're processing it, but are we retaining it? And this is going to be really important for why you want to add this to your recruiting program, because viewers retain 95% of a message when they view it in a video compared to only 10% in text. So again, another really compelling reason to start rethinking the way that you are displaying and showcasing your organization and the job opportunities there.
Right.
I think we have even one more stat. Yeah, 40% of people respond better to visual information rather than text. More engaging, more memorable, emotional, and repeatable. And what we try to do here on this slide is give you kind of an interesting picture. I don't know how you would feel. You're driving along, you're on a road, you're going to go through a tunnel, and here you have this visual in front of you. I mean, it's a little bit striking. It's definitely surprising. It's probably something that you're going to go home and tell your family, like, oh my gosh, or your friends, guess what I found. And just imagine if instead of that picture over the tunnel, because it's an advertisement, obviously, over the tunnel there was just that old timer logo. Maybe there was just a little sign. It's called the old timer tunnel, right? Just a little sign with the green old timer would not be nearly as engaging to you. Like right away as you're looking at that and driving through it, there's some stuff going through your mind, like maybe even a little trepidation. I don't know, right? But it's compelling, and that's the point we were trying to convey here.
But the other one is it's really memorable. I mean,
yes,
when you put that short little message together with the image, wow, very impressive.
And it sticks. It'll stick with you. And you'll tell someone. I think that's the other thing that's really important. So all of these things are kind of adding up to the fact that video does tell a story in a way that text or a document just doesn't. And you maybe got a little bit of this in the video we shared at the top of the program here, where not only were we showing, the logo and the visuals, but you got a sense of the environment of the library in Berkeley. You got a little bit of sense of the people. Joy shared a little bit of her personality, shared a little bit of her passion, as well as then you got a sense of the culture. And then ideally, most videos are, going to be like 3 to 4 minutes or so. You can even start moving into this compelling future. So for your job candidates, for those people you're trying to attract, this is valuable information for them to understand. What's it like there? Who are the people? Tell me a little bit about the culture, and where are you going as an organization? And using a video in recruiting really gives you the opportunity to tell that story.
Well, especially when you compare it to a typical recruitment brochure that usually, folks want to be short and brief. So you really don't have the space to tell a narrative.
Right.
And you really want to it's like a press release. Let's get out the 5 facts: who, what, where, why, and when, and what are the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And you're losing that face time, right? You're losing that visual of seeing, well, is it a place I really want to work at if I read it? But if I see it, it compels you very differently. And that's why I love telling these stories on video.
I do too. Yeah, and potential applicants are they're more likely to watch a 3-minute video than they are to read an article that takes 3 minutes. We're definitely living in a world of video these days. I mean, Glassdoor says 58% of their users are looking for jobs on their phones. The mobile phone is the way that people are a lot of times consuming video. 71% of people watch more video than they did a year ago. 6 out of 10 people would rather watch online videos than television. I know my husband and my son, they're famous. I mean, that's why they have to have all these large storage, on their phones, right? Because they're streaming all these videos. Indeed, by 2022, that's only like 2 years, well, really almost less than 2 years, online video will make up more than 82% of all consumer internet traffic. So 15 times higher than it was in 2017. So this kind of all goes back to, why video and why now? A lot of options available. What's the number 2 site, most hit site, Michael?
Well, let's put that out there in chat. What's What is the most the number 2 video site on the internet? Anybody know?
Put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat. This is just one of those quick questions.
Yeah.
And so
This is
far, well, we have 2 answers. But it's YouTube. YouTube is number 2. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we got these numbers once TikTok really hit the airwaves, but YouTube is number 2 most hits.
Yeah. It's just really
amazing.
widely proliferated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and even I think in our own work, so I mentioned, we do executive search. We are increasingly adding video to the work that we do with our clients. And when we went back and quantified that, we saw that the recruitments that had a video had 40 plus, so more than 40 more qualified applicants who were applying. So it's hard to know if it's totally attributed to video, but we thought that was really interesting, and did kind of speak to this trend that we're seeing with people increasingly want to engage with an organization through a video. So very compelling.
And I would also say from the analytics that we see, now obviously it's not a scientific research project, and we can't really quantify it, but the viewerships that we see on analytics in YouTube show these videos get a lot of views.
Mm-hmm.
So, amongst your 40 plus more applicants and the number of views, I really see it's helpful in the recruiting process, because it's almost that qualifier. If somebody goes to the video and says, hey, I love it, I'm going to apply, or somebody else say, it doesn't look like this is going to match who I am. So it helps to qualify a little bit more once you actually see the visuals of the agency.
That's a really good point you make, Michael. It's as much as much of a good thing to screen people out as it is to screen people in, because we really are looking for those qualified candidates, those candidates that see themselves in that job, that see themselves in that environment, and can really get behind, the exciting and challenging projects. So yeah, it works both ways.
So here we are, most common ways to use video.
Yeah, we thought we'd share the 3 that we are seeing most in the industry. There's really these 3. The first one, the 9 to 12 minute realistic job preview, is typically used for a job that perhaps has a little bit of a higher turnover, a job that's maybe a little bit more demanding, or a job that's really sometimes maybe misunderstood or mischaracterized. So being able to do a realistic job preview, a little bit of a longer of a video, lets you actually explore a day in the life of. It lets you talk to some of those incumbents who can give you, like, camera to person here, real life. Here's what's really great about this job. Here are some of the challenges, and here's how we handle those, and here's the different type of people we get to work with. So just a lot of ways to really unpack that story, so that, again, when your potential applicant is watching it, they can say, yes, this is for me, or no, I just don't see myself there. So really an important tool for some of those harder to fill positions. I know we've done some work here with eligibility workers and social workers, because so often those positions are so rewarding. And if we can really tap into that and get the message out there around the impact of the work, it can make a big difference.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
I would say the second one here is probably a little bit more common. It's a 2 to 4 minute video that is either job specific. So perhaps it's, you're recruiting for your CFO or your city manager or economic development, whatever. It's a specific job. So you're trying to really tell the story about that ideal candidate that you're looking for, what the exciting challenges are, what the opportunities are. Or sometimes this will go a little bit more global. We've worked with many agencies where we've done an agency-specific video. So we're really marketing and branding, recruiting for the entire organization. And those are equally as fun, a little bit broader, because you're typically then highlighting all of the many different types of opportunities within your organization, and you're really hitting things like the culture and the environment. So 2 different ways to kind of cast that 2 to 4 minute video. And then lastly, we've done some work with 30-second clips, and sometimes these can even be done, with an iPhone, so just a 30-second clip. Maybe it's the hiring manager who's giving a little bit of a pitch as to why come work here, what's the type of person we're looking for, and what's the type of person that will be successful here. Really short little clips. Those are really great for social media. Of course, you want to utilize social media for all of your video, but the little 30-second clips are really good. Little, Facebook, little Twitter hits.
Yeah.
Michael, what would you add there?
No, I think you're absolutely right. We had just finished doing a realistic job preview, and it demands that amount of time, that 9 to 12 minute time frame, because you're actually following somebody in their job and what they do, what they perform. And for me, it was such an eye opener. I don't work in the particular industry that we were filming, so seeing what they do and why they do it and why they love it in that expanded time frame really makes sense for people looking to get into a career. And so, that's absolutely that was an excellent video that we did. And then of course and I'll say the 2 to 4, but really they end up probably being 3 to 5, right? Because when you put on the front end and the back end, and letting people know where they need to go to fill out a job application and get some of that branding in for the agency. But no, those are truly the most common ways. But I think the next slide really gets us into the investment side of it, right?
Yeah, it does. Kind of wraps it up. I do have to answer one of the questions in the chat. Someone was just curious about the #1 most visited site, and I believe that is Google. Yeah. And guess who owns YouTube? Google, right? Is that right, Michael? Do I have that right?
That's absolutely right. Google purchased YouTube probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah. So I don't know how that works exactly, but thank you for that question. We did see that in the chat, and we will talk a little bit about costs towards the end. So hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
This upfront piece here, we really just wanted to introduce you to the return on the investment of using video, because I know sometimes you have to have some solid data. You need to have some analytics around, making a change or doing something a little bit differently. And so what we wanted to do was just give you some of this real world research, the brain science, and some real world experience around how video really can increase your exposure. And when we're trying to build really strong candidate pools, we really want that exposure to be maximized, and we want that exposure to be exponential, right? So we want to put it in a few places, and then we want other people then to pick that up and be forwarding it to the right folks. So it's all about increased exposure and greater distribution of your job, right? If you can get it to go like viral almost within the group of people that you're targeting in terms of their qualifications, that's a win typically for a qualified candidate pool. Plays right into the higher Google ranking. If you have video, you are more likely to be placed higher on the Google search page. We all know how important it is to be on the first page of a Google search. A saying we talk about in marketing, Jason and I did some work around this. Where do you bury bad news? On the 3rd page of a Google search, because nobody goes past page 1 or 2. So this having video will help you appear higher in that. Obviously, this all leads to more applicants, as well as branding your organization and visually telling your story. Michael and I talk about this all the time. Like, you are telling your story when you're creating a video. You're not letting other people tell it for you, and that's a really important thing.
And that is hugely important, especially over the last couple of years, where the internet's all this free space, so anybody can post anything about anyone, it seems like. And sometimes we see negative stories about city, county, state agencies, and other people are defining you. So if you do a quick search and you say city of Timbuktu, and I don't want to offend anybody if there is actually a CFTM bug too. But let's say, that comes up in the ranking and there's a couple of negative news stories and a couple of people saying, hey, don't like this place or whatever it is. By having your own story up there, produced by you, telling people the way it really is according to you all, then you have a chance to counter some of that negative publicity that's out there. And again, the only person who could define your culture is you, right? When you do a video, because you're showing your agency, you're showing the types of people you hire, it's that visual that's so important to people that they can emotionally grab onto.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, we've been talking a lot. I think we need a little bit of audience participation, Michael.
Well, and just so people know, we've kind of broken up this presentation, right? So that was all those hard numbers, statistics and everything, just to kind of validate, why people are going to video. And the next portion is really talking about the video production process. But first, guess what? We have another poll. You want to read the question? I'll download the poll.
Yeah. What is the most important aspect in creating your video? We're giving you lots of choices here. Pre-production meetings, B-roll collection, location scouting, story outline, selecting on-screen talent, on-camera talent, good lighting, all of the above.
Yeah. Hopefully you can all see the poll and you can all participate.
Yeah, I'm seeing answers come in. These, by the way, we're telegraphing kind of where we're going next in our presentation here. We want to kind of walk you through these different elements, but we thought it would be fun to see what you thought was the most important aspect.
Yeah. No, this is good. We have a lot of participation on this.
Give it maybe, a couple more seconds
5 more
here.
seconds, right?
Yep, 5 more seconds.
We'll give it, and we are going to end the poll. And you know what I'm going to do on this one? I'm going to share the results.
Perfect.
I think this is a good one to share, and hopefully everybody can see the results on this.
Yeah, I love it. A lot of people said all of the above, right?
Well,
I love that
a
answer.
trick question, right?
It almost is. Although I might give a shout out to the people that said story outline and pre-production meetings, because that's where it all starts. If you don't get a good foundation in the beginning, the rest becomes a lot more difficult. But yeah. Well done. Well done.
Well done is right. So let me close that one up. And so the production process is the heavy duty process of putting together a video. And we've broken it down into 4 segments: the pre-production, which you saw in our poll, filming, post-production, and what we love to call showtime. And we're going to cover each of these categories in the upcoming slides. Because it's important. What we find with clients is that the more they know up front, then the easier the process becomes and the expectations are set. So the first things first is those pre-production planning meetings. They're probably some of the most important conversations prior to coming out to film. Why? Because you collectively sit around, or in these days, you Zoom around, right? You Zoom or you do conference calls, and you develop a project timeline, because both you and the client want to know how long is it going to take to get me that final video. You develop the filming schedule. And again, that is probably one of the most critical, because the filming schedule is not just establishing a date, it also helps get employees or those that you're going to interview a date to reserve, so that we would have people to talk to on those days that we come out. The interview subject selection, again, what we talk about in these pre-production meetings is to bring those employees that we're going to interview. Looking for the type of employee, meaning those that are comfortable in front of a camera, those that can deliver in probably a couple of iterations of the filming. So it's very important that we talk about those, and that there's diversity. Melissa and I always chat about that, and to ensure that there is diversity among male, female, amongst ethnicity, amongst everything that exists in your organization, because you're showing the world your culture and what you look like.
Yeah.
Location, right? Location is another one. We, at least in what we do, we love to film indoors and we love to film outdoors. We do not like to film next to an airport, a train station, or a busy intersection. I mean, it just makes it tough because not only is the video quality important, but the audio quality is just as important. And it's not easy to edit audio on the back end. So we try and take care of that on the front end. Ideal spots for when you think about locations are in office, noise free, if you can, or a slight ambiance of noise. Hallways always are a good place. Office cubicles work. Conference rooms we have found, depending how big it is, where it's located, not always the best locations because usually not a lot of artwork, not a lot of color, not a lot of windows, and we're always looking for the natural light because that makes for the best quality of video. And then, you know, when we do get out on site, the important thing, we at least have done it a couple ways, but we look for somebody to be a liaison to the film crew. It just helps open secure doors, introduces the production crew to people. It makes it easier, but on the same hand, we've also done it without a liaison, and here's the key pass and go do your stuff. So it works two ways, but it's always nice to have that liaison.
It is. And even if you are doing this yourself, you know, so we're describing the process that, you know, the production crew might come in, but even if you're doing the video yourself, maybe you've got in your PIO office some resources to do this. The pre-planning is really important because it really sets the tone for how you're going to tell that story, pulling in the right subjects, pulling in the right visuals and locations.
Yeah. And that really leads us into our next slide, right? So you have the pre-production meeting, and other things that that production companies will talk to you about is, you know, to ensure your brands. I mean, you don't want a video that looks nothing like you. So, you know, production companies will look for your graphic guidelines so that you are using the logos, the colors, the fonts that you use in your everyday materials on the video, which then again mirrors your organization. So scripting is another important thing. I know we had in our poll. There's two ways that at least we go about scripting. One is you can have the whole video scripted with a voiceover, and the other and then you just show kind of some B-roll, and we'll get into that in a second under it. Or the preferred method, at least for us, is that we have an opening and a closing voiceover script, which we introduce the company, and then at the end, we encourage people to apply, and this is how you apply. And then everything in between are interviews of your people at the organization, which when we wove it all together, tells that full story. And then when we talk about B-roll, you know, many people don't know what B-roll is, but really it's a collection of video footage. It's not interviews, it's just stuff that you will see, like you see a news reporter doing an interview, and they'll cut away from the interview and they'll show a building, they'll show activity. And that's exactly what B-roll is. Oftentimes PIOs or these organizations have access to film they have taken. Even if there is sound to it, we actually will delete the audio and just use the video portion. And then the same things with still photography, if that's still the words used, still photography. Digital photography, I guess, is the new word. But with digital photography, we use that as well. But we also use movement. So nothing ever looks still in a video, because otherwise you could just put a bunch of digital photography together and stream it along. But everything that at least our production company does is there's movement, and movement's important. And
yeah, and you'd be, oh, go ahead, Michael.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you'd probably be surprised at how many assets you have under your umbrella in your organization. A lot of times, maybe it's in the public information officer's office or someone like that. But there are probably photos that have been taken. The police departments usually take a lot of different photos out in the community, the fire department, community event kind of days.
Meetings, we have. You know,
Yeah.
we did one video where we got some footage of, it was cops and coffee. Since we weren't out filming that day, they were able to supply us with some footage that they had taken. But I'm also going to note here on the video, you'd be surprised. iPhones take some great B-roll video, and we've used it a lot in some of our productions.
Yeah, yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
We talked just briefly about some script writing. I'm going to turn this over to Melissa to talk about the different partials.
Yeah, I want to fill in a little bit here because I think people don't necessarily always understand the importance of this step. The third bullet there is story outline. So that it would be like the minimum we would recommend if you're contemplating doing a video. Have a story outline, at least like what are the key points? What are the key things you want to convey about the culture, about the projects, about the future? I mean, you need to have at a minimum a story outline. But as Michael was talking about on the previous screen, really what we find to be more and most effective would be one of the other two methods, full script versus a partial script. Now, a full script is going to be more intensive because again, you have to write that, and you might write it out, but then you need to say it out loud because when someone is saying it, when it's being videotaped, sometimes the word that looked good on paper just doesn't roll off the tongue or doesn't really convey what you want it to convey. So when you're doing full script, it's usually something that's more formal. A lot of the times what we see is maybe your HR director is fully scripted and doing a video where and we'll have an example of this at the end, where the director is now speaking to the camera and then we've got the B-roll, the visuals coming in and out. So it really needs to be polished, a little bit more formal, then we would recommend going with more of maybe a full script approach. What we have gravitated to and what we tend to find is very effective is what we call the partial script. And that's where the front end and the back end are scripted. So the front end is really probably some important general information that you want to convey about the organization, about maybe living there, some real specific things you want to get across to kind of grab your viewer in the beginning. And then on the back end, we also want to fully script things like, how do you apply? What are the nitty-gritties on now that call to action? But in the middle, we're more or less following a bit of a story outline, and we're having authentic interviews with the subjects. So your employees who have said, yes, I'll be willing to be filmed. So we're asking them questions, we're prompting them, and they are filling in the detail with, what it's like to work there, what drew them there, what keeps them there. And they are then authentically from their own heart and their own experience telling that story. And it really conveys well in this medium, this, really not a scripted. It's really feels very real and very genuine.
Good. So great covering that. And that's, obviously one of the most important points is the scripting. So now we want to get into the talent selection considerations. So you have the pre-production, and this is all pre-production too. But what we share with clients is that we want to find individuals that are willing, company cheerleaders with enthusiasm, and who are comfortable in front of the camera. And we've experienced all different kinds of folks that we've been provided with to do. And sometimes we'll get the enthusiasm and comfort, with the third one being, I was told to do this.
Voluntold.
Yeah, that was the word, right? Voluntold. I was voluntold to do this. And as much as, that's wonderful, the voluntold is not always, it always takes a little bit longer because they don't want to be there. They don't want to be on camera, and we get that. And so it's always easiest to have all three components when you think about who you put in front of the camera when you do any type of production, right? So yeah, this is a very important slide that we always like to spend a little bit of time about, because the quality of your video is dependent on the people in it. Because if they're not showing the excitement and how wonderful it is to work for you, it's going to come out crystal clear in the video. And then, you know, obviously when we put together in post-production, we'll talk about more of that then, is that just because we film people doesn't necessarily mean they end up in the final product, right? Because we tell the story, and the story has to be woven just right. So sometimes we do put everybody in, and sometimes a couple of people are left out.
Yeah, so a tip here is you want to select more people than we will probably end up in the video. So we typically interview 5 to 7 folks to get to that 3 to 5 minute video.
So we're going to run through this one. We've probably talked about this already in other slides, but again, bearing in mind, visuals are so important to a video because it's what makes the show, right? So B-roll we talked about, photos, logo and colors, branding. This is all stuff that we need up front. We go out, we will, at least in our production company, we'll go out, we'll shoot some B-roll, but it's always best to get as much as we can from the client.
Let me just say quickly, this is where there is a nexus with the script, because your script is going to drive some of these visuals. So if the employee is talking about the amazing cultural events that your city puts on, then we want to have some B-roll of some of those events ongoing. So this is a nexus point between the script and visuals.
And then again with filming, so I like to, you know, you want to be as efficient as possible, right? And so again, I can only speak for how, you know, our production folks do it, but the day of filming is we get there early. We arrive, we kind of do a quick scout of various locations, both with the pre-production help and just from what we see when we get there, because it's always hard to see it on a Google map. The interview schedule, we provide something in advance, so helps you let your employees know when their time is up. That way they're not waiting all day long for their turn to be interviewed. Lighting and sound, as I said, was so important. In fact, I don't have perfect lighting on me today, but when I first got onto the Zoom, I saw that I was really dark. In fact, I'll show you how dark I was. So I'm dark here, but I threw up a light and it just shined. It made my appearance a little bit better. And that's what we look for when we go out and film. Lighting is essential in everything that we do. And then so is sound, right? Sound is, you know, to hear clicks, to hear background noise, to hear other things going on in the background while the person is being interviewed doesn't make for a good final product. So we're always trying to perfect that. I remember one time we were filming outside and all of a sudden we had helicopter noise. So we stopped filming, helicopter noise went away, started filming, helicopter noise came back. And so that went on for a period of about 7 minutes. But we're not going to film when there's that background noise because it's going to overshadow the interview. So in your filming process, if when you choose to do films on site with your own folks, those are a couple of critical things to think about, is lighting and sound. And then for us, because we try and put these productions together in 1 or 2 days, it's just a fast-paced day. You know, we get there, we arrive probably 8:30 in the morning, leave at 5, no lunch break, and we're just filming all the way through because we want to make sure it's efficient for the client and affordable. So yeah, that's what we do on filming. And then, we go into post-production. So we've completed the day of filming. We've collected all of our assets from that day or two of filming. And then what we tell clients is about 5 to 7 days for a first round cut draft for the client to review, to comment on, feedback, their input, and then we recut it out. During the post-production, we take all those interviews and we sequence the storyline. We put it all together so it makes sense and it sounds exactly right. We drop in the B-roll, right? So you're not sitting there necessarily all the time focusing on one person talking, but if they're talking, and I'm going to use the example of an airport, we had done something in San Luis Obispo, right? And they were so excited about the new airport. It wasn't completed yet, but we went in, we interviewed their director of airport, and then we dropped in all of this B-roll of the new airport being built. So it really came out nice. And then again, of course, we edit for sound and picture quality. Sound is probably the most difficult thing to edit. It can be to a degree, but if you're hearing large hiccups in there, very difficult to edit. So again, keep that in mind when you're out there filming for your videos. Selection and adding music track. Again, we were talking at the beginning of this prior to the start of the webinar, is that music selection is in one of those other emotional juggernauts, if you will, that helps tell your story. So I would love to be playing some music background right now behind me, but it's just that emotional attachment that further promotes the video. And then, of course, adds titles and graphics, as you saw in that earlier video that we showed, and then link to the application and agency website. I mean, because at the end of the day, the most important thing for this video to do is to bring you more recruits, more applicants, more qualified applicants. So, you know, those are what we do in post-production. And then it just slides into the client review. So we talked about the 5 to 7 days, and this is at that 5 to 7 day mark. You know, we need the client's feedback. We want to deliver a product that you're going to be happy with. So we ask that you utilize the time codes and saying, hey, can you adjust something here at the 30-second mark, at the 40-second mark, at the minute 30 mark. You have about 3 to 5 day feedback turnaround. Then we will turn that around 2 to 3 day revision, and then a second round of feedbacks and editing and final production. Now, why is this also critical? Because we have clients that say, all right, we're going out with a job opening in 3 weeks. We need this done now. So usually not a problem, but the slowdown sometimes comes from the client review process, where there are just so many eyes that have to see it. It typically takes, or sometimes takes, longer than that 5 day turnaround, which then just slows down the process. So these are just time, you know, estimated timeframes for you to consider when you produce a video in-house or out of house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, build in that time. A lot of times, you know, you forget that there does need to be sufficient time. That the review is really important. There's where the fine tuning happens. So you want to make sure you've got that built into your timeline.
All right, so we're going to go into a next polling question. I love polling questions. It really engages the people in the audience. So,
all right, let's see. I'm going to launch this one. How do you plan to use a video in your candidate recruitment? Now, I know some of you are already doing that, and there were about 2/3 of you who aren't. But if you were, just imagine you've got one in the bag here. How do you plan then to use that with your recruitment effort?
and
5 different options. And then, Michael, there's a question after we do this poll. Someone asked a technical question about a tool, but let's.
Yeah, no, I'm answering it now, so I'm going to share
Okay.
with everybody in a second.
Great.
There you go. So we use actually 3 different versions of a software. So you can see that in your chat. Thank you, Bridget, for your question. All right, so here we go. I'm going to end this poll. How do you plan to use video in your candidate recruitment? And let's share the results.
Yeah, agency and business website. Perfect. You know why I love that answer? I mean, I love all of the answers. We could have had another all of the above here probably, Michael. But yep. What I love about that agency business website is because you're understanding that this is all about branding. So any video you put up there, whether it's for a specific job or for your agency, really does help brand your agency. So that's why those visuals, having your logo, your colors, having it all tie in is super important.
And not only that, if you produce your own video, you want it to be seen. And really the best place to start is on your agency business website, right? Because you spent all this time producing it. All right, so we're going to go into the next slide. And what's your favorite term?
It's showtime.
So now you have a produced video, and I wish we could open the curtains and show you all the great work, but it's showtime, and where do we go from there? How do you get the most out of your video? And I think that polling question really pushed the buttons where we believe one would get the most views, the most activity, and it really starts on your website. Because if somebody's looking for a job, I'm going to pick on the city of Timbuktu again. And again, I don't want to offend anybody if you're from the city of Timbuktu. But they're going to go and start at your website. They're probably going to start on your HR page, and they're going to say, all right, what jobs do you have open, right? And then you're going to have this nice big video, right, front and center, either job specific or just about your agency. So great place to start. But how do you get people to your video, right? And I know everybody today has social media for their companies or agencies. So posting links there is critical. Your network, talk about that, Melissa, if you would.
Yeah, so all of the folks that you may know, LinkedIn is one example, but even just your colleagues, right? Sending out an email message with a link to the video to the people that you know, that will get this much wider distributed, and that's what we're trying to go for here. So who can you tap into? If you're an HR director, is there an association that you belong to? Do you have a network of fellow directors in your region that you can send this out to? We've been getting, sometimes from our clients, will send us something saying, hey, we've got this opening, can you send it out to the folks that you know? So it's exactly like that, trying to get this video out into the hands of the largest group of people, because you just never know exactly who might be looking. And we're finding that a lot of the candidates now are passive. So tapping into your network, maybe you don't know of someone, but maybe a friend that you have does. And so by getting it to them, then they can pass it in front of somebody else. And all of a sudden you've got someone who you might not have reached in any other way because they're simply not looking for a job. Kind of same email pushes kind of goes along the same line. Are there different ways that you can push this out to friends and colleagues, vendors even?
Right. And that's really important, those email pushes, because it's one thing for you to wait for people to come to your website. It's another thing to tell people, hey, we've just introduced something new, or come check out this video. And again, there is a couple of ways. We use Constant Contact. I'm sure a lot of you have some type of third-party emailer, and we'll link a video right into it. And our users or the people who receive it are able to click right away. One of the things I learn on the marketing side, or I tell my clients, is that you want to minimize the number of clicks somebody has to take to get to a piece of information. Don't make it 5, don't make it 3, but 1 to 2, 1 being optimal to get to the information you want to go to, you'll have the greatest success. Yeah. So, going on from there to, and I know we're pushing on the hour, but we just have a couple more slides, is, these are 4 different cities, entities that we have found to be have some good videos on them.
Yeah, but I know someone asked earlier in the chat if we could share some links. So we're more than happy to share the links to these 4, as well as, a number. We've got a whole library that we've done. So we're more than happy to share those with you. These are nice examples because the city of Bakersfield and the city of San Jose, those 2 videos are somewhat similar in that they're really touting the benefits of the entire organization and the opportunities and the culture that someone can expect if they're interested in a career with either one of those 2 entities. The one on the top is more of that, it's that HR director who's giving that direct appeal, that direct personal message as to why it is just a great place to work in LA County. Very, very compelling, very nicely done piece there. And then at the bottom, we have a clip from the City and County of Denver, which is more in terms of pictures, so not so heavy on people being in it, but a lot of visuals and a message, be a part of the city that you love, that was critical to tying into an overall brand campaign. And are we going to share a little clip of that?
We're going to show the example from Denver. And again, it's not something we did, but we thought it was a really good video, so we wanted to share that. And so again, your volume control on your machine will determine the loudness of this video. So it just takes.
What do you love about Denver? From the culture and arts to unique experiences and world-class business opportunities, there are countless reasons to love our great city. It takes many hands to keep a city as active and vibrant as ours, running and thriving. It takes unparalleled talent and passion. The unique energy and spirit that draws people to the Mile High City all begins with the City and County of Denver. With more than 11,000 employees, the City and County of Denver team members are Denver's lifeblood. They make a real difference with the work they do every day.
Denver was a community that really supported the values that I had as a professional.
I would describe my coworkers as natural-born leaders and change agents. They really care about the city, they care about their jobs, they care about their employees. Most of all, they're really invested in making the city a world-class place where everybody matters.
The fact that I'm making an impact on the city that I live in, that's the sense of pride and accomplishment that I get.
It's just a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to work. I love the rapport and the camaraderie that we have amongst one another.
Working for the City and County of Denver, you're going to make a difference. Someone's going to be better off for the job that you've done.
There's a true sense of camaraderie among us. We're like a family, all working together to make a city that we love even better. There's also an incredible sense of pride being an integral part of a city as exciting as Denver. Be a part of the city that you love. Explore careers at the City and County of Denver, where Denver works.
So that was just a quick example of B-roll and voiceover, right? So they had all the interviews, and instead of showing the interviews, they just showed a bunch of B-roll underneath the interviews. And it really works well. So now we're kind of like on one of the last slides here, return on your investment. Melissa.
Yeah, we'll just wrap it up here. We talked about these. I'm not going to read this to you, but we hope that what you've gotten from this today is that by adding video to your recruiting, you can really boost your qualified candidates, and you can also elevate your organization's brand. And I know someone earlier asked about cost. So we typically when we come out and do this, $3,500 up to probably $5,000, depending on how many days of filming, depending on the length. But for as little as $3,500, you could have a video for your organization to talk about why your organization, what's compelling about it.
So we're going to do one last poll here, right? Just a quick one. And it's our last poll question of the day. And what is the likelihood you will use video in a future recruitment?
Yeah, and while you're doing that, there was a good question, and Jason piped in here. Someone asked, how do you make boring office job look exciting in video? It's the people. I would say it's the stories that the people tell. It's getting that person to talk about what's rewarding, what is the impact of what they're doing. So it's not, the cubicle, it's really conveying the work that's being done and what's exciting and why someone likes to be a part of whatever that organization is.
So let me share the results of this poll. Hopefully everybody can see that. And oh, look at that.
Oh, good.
Close to 40% say very likely. So
we really encourage you to give it a shot. Even if you're using your iPhone, even if you're doing something that's just a little 30-second blip, it's a great way to get started, gain some comfort with this whole idea of a different way to showcase your organization.
So we are at the top of the hour. We're 1 minute over, but we're happy to stay around, answer some questions in the chat room. Here's the information for Melissa and I. You can reach us by email or by phone. we'd be happy to answer any of your questions about, that you might have in shooting a video. So hopefully you can jot that down. Jason, do you want to, or Melissa, do you have anything to close?
I just did want to mention, I think someone asked earlier on about HRCI or SHRM credits. So we didn't get this pre-approved, but this would absolutely count towards that. I myself have SHRM certification, so you can definitely record this as an hour continuing education unit, professional development unit on those platforms.
Over to you, Jason.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael and Melissa, for this helpful presentation. The information was fantastic, and hopefully it made an impact on everybody that attended and made you think about how you can incorporate video in your organization. I'd like to thank everyone that joined us today. Be sure to check out our website at cpshr.us. In the About section, you'll see webinars, and the slide deck and recording will be there. We'll also post it on LinkedIn. Thank you again, everyone, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks,
thanks,
Jason.
Melissa.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks to everyone for participating in the poll and for chatting.